I have been avoiding making this video for a while. I knew when I started this channel that the uncomfortable stories would be the ones that could help most, even though they're the hardest ones to tell. And this is one of those stories. For most of my life, I believed that my only worth in relationships was sex. So think about that. That's all. That's literally all I thought I brought to the table. So whenever I would meet someone, I would jump right into the physical part of the relationship because I couldn't understand what they could possibly see in me other than that. Over time, I've learned that this actually isn't so unique. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let me tell you how a broken girl with a broken brain found someone who loved her anyway. My low self-esteem led me to seek validation in the worst possible ways. I felt like I had no choice but to go out of the way to please people at the expense of my own needs, my own happiness, and even my own identity. I didn't think that I had any other value except what I could offer physically, and I thought that that was the key to finding love. I was so hopeful that someone out there would see beyond that if I just gave enough, if I just sacrificed enough of myself, then finally I'd be accepted. I believed that I would have the relationship I'd always dreamed of if I just kept proving that I was worthy. But it doesn't work that way. It never worked that way. They always left. I was constantly convinced that if I wasn't what they wanted, if I couldn't mold myself into the image that they needed, then I wasn't enough for anyone. Not for them, and especially not for myself. And it's utterly exhausting to spend your life trying to be good enough for somebody else. I've talked in other videos about my childhood trauma, about being abused, and how that impacted me in my adult life. Now, I know that trauma led me to believe that I wasn't worthy of being cared for unless I sacrificed something of myself in return. I was carrying around wounds from my past, and I let those wounds dictate my worth as an adult. When you don't value yourself, you'll accept less than you deserve time and time again. I stayed in relationships where I was emotionally drained, constantly afraid, always trying to prove my worth like it was some competition I couldn't win. I just felt like I was trying to earn love through sheer willpower. I did get married for this first time in my late 20s. We were together for 10 years and married for only 2. He's a nice person. He was a nice person. He just wasn't the right person for me. We didn't love each other the way that we needed to. And looking back, I see now that I was way too emotionally immature for marriage. I had no business getting married when I didn't even know who I was yet. After the divorce, things spiraled in a very destructive and wholly toxic way for me. I was dating a lot and none of them were good. Not a one. But here's the thing. I knew it. I knew it every single time that the person I was with wasn't right for me. I knew it. I didn't even like some of them, but I stayed. These people didn't make me feel loved or valued, and I wasn't happy, but I stayed because I thought that being with someone, anyone, was better than being alone. So I settled. I convinced myself that this was just how my life was going to be, that I wasn't worthy of a healthy, loving relationship. So I settled. I settled again and again for relationships where I didn't feel seen, where I didn't feel cared for, and where I didn't even feel like I could be myself. The idea of being alone terrified me because it reinforced every fear and insecurity that I had ever had, that I wasn't good enough for anyone. I just felt like I was lucky that someone could even tolerate me, that they could just stand to be around me. I mean, I was fat. I had mental health issues. When you don't think you're worthy of love, you're going to latch onto anything, onto whatever little scraps that you can find. That attention is better than nothing. But here's the thing, it's not. It's not, and it wasn't. It wasn't better than nothing. It was worse than nothing. I was with people who made me feel worse about myself, but I stayed. I was basically at a breaking point where my anxiety and depression were suffocating me, for lack of a better word. And I ended up in a hospital because I couldn't cope by myself anymore. I needed help. So I was there for a few weeks and I attended group counseling. It was like 8 hours a day of counseling. It was really, really intense. And during one of the sessions, I started talking about how unworthy I felt. And for me, all of that unworthiness, all of that self-hate was wrapped up in my weight. I was fat, and I had convinced myself that because of that, I could never be loved. I felt disgusting. I felt that the only way that someone could possibly want to be with me is if I was sexually available. And as I said all of this and more out loud to group, the counselors told me that I had a deep-rooted and severe problem with negative self-talk. They told me that the things I was saying about myself were brutal, harsh, and ultimately untrue. But here's the thing. When you've spent years tearing yourself down, you don't just hear that and magically start feeling better. It's a long process, but I was ready to start. I learned that many people like me with body image issues and low self-esteem often turn to sex for validation, hoping it will fill this void of feeling unlovable. But that group, those people, they saw something in me that I never saw in myself. And that became clear when I was about to leave. We all left at different times because we all entered the program at different times. And on my last day, I was the only one leaving that day. The teachers did something special. And this is something that they hadn't done before. They gave me this water bottle that had been signed by every single person in group, each writing down something beautiful that they saw in me. I also got letters from anyone who wanted to write one. There were 9 patients and 2 teachers, and every single one of them wrote me notes, and every single one of them were incredible. These notes were absolutely life-changing. They used words like warm, encouraging. They said I was a light. They said I brought joy with me wherever I went, and I had this unique ability to touch people's hearts. They told me I was courageous and strong and caring. They said that I gave great advice, and people were drawn to me because of my smile and wit. Not one person mentioned my weight. But here were these people who had seen me at my absolute worst, mind you, telling me that I was so much more than what I saw in the mirror. It was the first time that I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I was worthy of love, worthy of friendship, just worthy. I want you to ask yourself this. What would the people who love you say about you? Think of all the ways that you bring light into this world. Trust me, there is so much more to you than what you see in your mirror. When you take off that lens of distortion that you have, what do others see in you that is so difficult for you to see? Go ahead and say it out loud. Even if you don't believe it, say it. I still have that water bottle. I still have all those letters. It was in that moment, after years of self-doubt and self-hate, that I started to realize I had been looking at myself all wrong. The truth of that hit me like a truck. And as soon as I left the hospital, I dove headfirst into therapy. I went deep. I was doing several sessions a week. There was so much work that I needed to do. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from it. One of the biggest decisions that I made during that time was to not date anymore at all. I just wasn't ready to date. I was focusing on myself. I had spent too long using sex as a way to feel valuable, and I needed to break that cycle. I needed to learn how to love me before I could even think about letting someone else in. About a year later, I decided to try dating again. And honestly, it was weird. It was hard. I was a different person. I was still carrying some of that old fear, the old worry that people wouldn't like me, but this time things were different. I wasn't falling for the games anymore. I wasn't trying to be someone else to make people stay. And then on one of those dates was Doug. From the moment I met him, I knew. We had our first date at a coffee shop, and I can see it as clear as day. I knew this man was my person. I loved him from that moment. But boy, did I try to play it cool. This girl, what you see before you, this calm, cool, collected delight of a woman, has absolutely no game. I have no game, and I could not play it cool, but I tried. I had this newfound confidence that I had earned through this year of therapy, this year of hardcore therapy. I had this sense of will that I had built over the past year. I was determined not to mess it up. But guess what? I totally did. I totally did. I totally did. I overstepped. I was an oversharer and I shared way too much, way too soon. I was still learning how to be comfortable with who I was, and we both had some growing to do. So we broke up. We didn't see each other for nearly a year after that. And during that time, I kept working on myself. I wasn't expecting Doug to ever come back in my life, but he sent me an email and asked me if we could talk. And suddenly I was hopeful and everything felt possible again. I had never stopped loving him. So the second time around was much different, much different. The first time we dated, we only saw each other maybe once or twice a week, but when we reconnected, we were together almost every day. And that's when I started to realize how different this relationship was from anything that I had ever experienced. I remember the first night we spent together that we didn't have sex. I was absolutely petrified. He rolled over and, gave me a kiss goodnight and went to sleep, and I laid there all night long. All of the fears came rushing back. He doesn't like me. What did I do wrong? What should I do now? I just agonized and agonized over it because I didn't know how to just be. I didn't know how to exist in a relationship that wasn't all about sex. But Doug showed me that relationships could be so much more than that. So much more. He made me laugh. He made me feel comfortable in a way that I had never experienced before. He told me I was beautiful every single day. Not just physically, but in the way I made him feel, the way I brought joy into his life. For the first time, I felt really, really seen. Really seen. And not just for what I could offer physically, but for who I am. I was scared. I had never had a relationship like this before, so I let Doug lead. And when he watches this video, I think that some of this is going to come as a surprise to him. He has no idea how much of an impact he's had on me. It took me until I was 40 to figure this out, to realize that I didn't have to be perfect to be loved. And Doug had never dealt with someone who had mental health struggles like mine, but he has been the most empathetic, kind, and supportive and loving and wonderful man that I've ever known. So for anyone out there that is struggling with anxiety, depression, or any other mental health issues, don't believe the lie that you're not worthy of love because of it. Excuse me. I thought that for years, but Doug taught me that love sees all of you and embraces it. He loves me in ways that I never thought possible. Not because I'm perfect, far from it, right? But because he sees me, all of me. He sees all of the parts that I used to hide, and he loves those too. And that's what I want you to know. Someone out there will see you, the real you, and love you for it. This life that Doug and I have built together, it's beyond anything that I could have imagined for myself. There are days when I look at him and I still can't quite figure out why he loves me the way he does. But every day I tell him how lucky I am to be loved by him. And every day he says the same thing back to me. I don't have to be perfect to be loved, but somehow I'm perfect for him. So if you're sitting there thinking that this could never happen to you, that this could never be you, stop. Just stop. You need to believe that you're worth it. Real love happens when you're real with yourself first. And trust me, when that happens, everything else just falls into place. Having anxiety, depression, or any other mental health issue doesn't make you less deserving of love. It just means you have more layers, and that's okay. The right person will love you for all of it, not in spite of it. But to be clear, no one can make you feel loved if you don't love yourself first. I hear people all the time say, well, he just doesn't make me feel loved. He just doesn't make me feel loved. No one can make you feel loved. Real love doesn't start with someone else. It starts with you. It starts inside of you. When you believe in your own worth, you open yourself up to the kind of love that's meant for you. Self-love matters, not just so you could be happy alone, but so you can welcome in the kind of love that you deserve. Before you go, I want you to try something. Please think of one thing that you love about yourself. Just one thing. It could be anything. It could be your smile, your kindness, your strength, whatever it is. Hold on to that and then start there. Because real love begins when you recognize the beauty that's already in you. And trust me, the right person is going to see it too. Thanks for being here today as I share that part of my story. It was difficult, but I'm glad I did it. I'll see you in the next video.